Okay, so this is along the same lines as my last little tip. It's got to do with file management. What we have here is there's a foreground, and then there's the character, and then there's got to be a background behind her. And for that background, what I had done is I just started drawing with in a raster level the my paint brushes. Now I'm like, okay, now I want to in the schematic view, as you can see here, I've got both of these columns locked to the Akari column. So when her column moves to simulate a camera move, the other columns move with her. So that's good. The problem is now I need to paint this background. Okay, as you can see, if we paint on it, you can see it's behind her. But I think what I really want to do is to paint it, I want to load it in an external program and then add some stuff. What will be useful though actually is to go like this, because this shows me where the edges of that doorway are. Now in practice, I must say, I probably should draw a line there as well, because actually, now that I'm thinking about it, I've said repeatedly that I'm going to make that window. Oops, I didn't want to do that. I think I just. Okay, I thought I just drew on my. That's one thing you do have to be careful of, is not drawing on the wrong level. And then as you can see here, OpenTOONZ sort of jumps back to the default brush. Right now I'm using my mouse, that's why this looks kind of stupid. But that's cool, at least that gives me a guide. Okay, so anyway, the problem I'm trying to solve, and I'm going to turn this back on and then hit Save All, is I want to know what is this image, okay, so I can go and edit it elsewhere. I did actually figured it out in two ways. One is the same way I did before, which is I just loaded the Toonz file into a text editor. I found column 6 and was able to sort of track it down, and it was actually what you expect. The file name was, I believe, F1. So anyway, that's one way to do it, is to just search through the OpenTOONZ text file. But I really didn't need to do that, because when I went into the OpenTOONZ extras folder for this project, let me just pull this down here. In the extras folder, I was able to find F.001, which corresponds to this frame. That's why it's labeled F1. The actual file name is F0001. And the leading zeros are because OpenTOONZ is assuming that this may ultimately be an image sequence. Okay, so I dragged this image into Krita, and look what happened. For some reason, Krita seems to puke on the TIFFs that are generated by OpenTOONZ. So that means that for doing what I was going to do, Krita becomes a non-starter. Well, let's try GIMP. Oh, that's what we're talking about. Okay, GIMP did exactly what we wanted it to do. So now what we're going to do is, let me just look back here. I'll tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to go ahead and draw this line here too that represents the floor. I'm going to hit Save All. And I think I'll have to re-drag this into GIMP, I imagine, because GIMP sort of caches a local copy of it, so I think this will work. Okay, and as you can see, that line that I just drew is now in there. So at least that gives me a sense of where things go. So now, I'm going to take Free Commander, and as you can see here, what we're going to do is we're going to take this image we found online and we're going to edit it, because we don't really want to be using any copyrighted images or anything, but I'll just basically paint over it, and so you'll never really see the original image. So what I'm going to do is just drag that in there, and actually that works out fine. It's obviously way too small, but that's okay because I'm going to paint over it, right? So now what I'm going to do is use this the scaling tool to just get this kind of in a range of size like I'm after, or I'm speaking like an American here, like I want. I'm going to move this layer down, and then based on the positioning of Akari and where things, actually this works out really nicely. It's based on where things would be in the room. I'm going to say, and actually we need to have the bottom. Let me just look at this for a second. Okay, that's the wall in the background. And so my sense is that we're going to want something like this, but we're going to want this to be smaller. Okay, so we'll just rescale again. And again, we don't care about it degrading because we're scaling it, since we're going to paint over it anyway. Okay, so now if I erase the guidelines and just save this file, actually, sorry, in GIMP you need to hit export. It's always going to save in the XCS format by default, but I can overwrite f.001. Okay, so now let's see if, I don't know if OPENTOONZ will update in real time. It looks like it will not. Now maybe if I click away from that column and then back to it, nope. Okay, so what I need to do is close OPENTOONZ and just rerun it so that it sort of refreshes and reloads any external files. And I think what's going to happen is we will have the updated background behind Akari in place. So let's just scroll down to where our scene begins and see what happens. And yes, there it is. So I don't actually like the positioning, but that's okay because we can use the A/animate tool to make some modifications to it. So let's go ahead and do that. We'll scale it, and it looks like it is the aspect ratio is not locked. So I believe if I hit Control, I can scale it in this direction like that, and then adjust the positioning something like that. This is so cool. And now, because the layers are linked in the schematic view, la-ti-da, it travels right along in the animation just as I wanted. And so now to finish this out and edit it, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and kill the foreground. I'm going to leave Akari in there, but I want to make sure I'm painting here. And then I think what I want to do is let's load a different brush. Oops. Yeah. So we're going to go to the My Paint brushes. And what I think I want for this is more of a painterly kind of thing. So, and what we're going to do is we're going to dance between using the R key to sample colors, and then using this paintbrush to go ahead and expand the painting so that it fills the space we're after. And I guess for the moment I'm going to use a really big brush, just kind of let's rough it in, right? We'll catch that red border here in just a bit. Okay. So we can just paint this in. Doesn't have to be perfectly perfect. What we're going to do is sample that and then make our brush a little smaller so we can sort of fake in some more of these decorations. And remember, most of this is going to be covered up like that. So okay, right there, I think, yeah, see what just happened? if I had been over here, yeah, I guess I'm surprised it's not painting onto it, but I'm not going to worry about that right now. The point is you want to make sure you have the correct level selected. Otherwise you're going to give yourself some grief. It probably did paint on it actually, and I just don't realize it. But we know she's cut off there, so that's obviously outside. And we're going to have to put some shadowing in here, but let's just get it blocked in first. And I think what I'll do is double click here. Actually, yeah, that's cool. I don't really need to change the brush, but I may want to change the color a bit, make it a little darker, that sort of thing. This particular brush tends to pick up some of the color around it as well, so I just want to really, you know, it might have been better to experiment with some sort of like particle brush or something that's got a little bit more noise sort of baked into it, but no harm done. Right now what I'm doing is I'm just using the R key, which lets you sample the underlying colors, which is definitely pretty handy. So how perfect this needs to be is absolutely a matter of opinion. What I want to do is just keep putting that on to see if I'm, yeah, I was correct. I'm basically wasting time right now because I'm painting in an area that, oops, stop. I'm going to hit Control Z. I'm going to hit Save All. Let it save because I would have accidentally just now again accidentally painted into my foreground image, so sorry about that. But yeah, so, and it might be, you could probably argue that this whole process would be a little faster if I was doing the background painting in either GIMP or Krita. But I'm kind of having fun working directly in OPENTOONZ actually. Okay, so I'm just going to get that colored in and let that fog a bit in the background because, okay. So now I'm going to leave that open actually. And then let's sample this and then make it a little bit darker. And then this is kind of important. We've got to get the shadow under the bed. Stupid OPENTOONZ keeps when you go and do something else, it reselects the default brush. I don't know what else you call that except a bug. That's definitely not, I can't imagine why that would ever be desirable behavior. RGB, back to the brush. Now we want to make it a little smaller. And this doesn't need to be detailed or even what you might call accurate. It just needs to break things up a bit. Okay, and because ultimately this is going to be, not only all of the rest of this is going to be painted over, but also it's going to be quite a bit darker. Now, if you wanted to, let's just say, if you really wanted to see what this is going to look like darker, you would use the schematic view. Let's pull open the schematic view, go down here. Okay, and so now what we're going to do is switch to, okay, that's interesting. Switch to effects. We're going to take I believe it's this. Let me see if I've got the right. Yep, that's it. So we just grab that and insert an effect, and I guess it would be an image adjustment, wouldn't it? And let's call it. There's so many to pick from. Curves. Let's just do curves. Of course, that's not going to affect the that's not going to affect the saturation, so it might wind up being oversaturated. But then you turn on the preview, and yeah, that's not quite what I was after, is it? Yeah, interesting. So it cranks down the levels, but it also it really needs a saturation adjustment. So you can, but you get the idea. So if we delete that, it just goes back to. So again, we see that OPENTOONZ is a pretty capable node-based compositor. Okay, so let's just go to the camera view, and I just want to review that things are sort of happening as I expect. So I'm going to go up to the previous shot and set my start marker. So there she is, she's breathing. We got to put the background in there too as well, obviously. Then we got our ninjas crawling up the wall. Okay, and then one thing that does concern me a little bit is the size of these ninja guys. So the question would be, would you make Akari larger or these guys smaller? What it feels like to me is that these guys are too big. I'm thinking these guys are too big. So let's see how we would fix that. It's actually remarkably easy. Alright, and here's how we do it. We've got, let's see here. Card comes down here and then boom. There our guy comes in frame. So this is our, I'm just going to drag this over here so we can see that this is the guy we're concerned with. Okay. And what we want to do is scale his column. So all I'm going to do is hit the A key, scale, and then position him like that so that he's still coming in from the bottom. Okay, so now I'm just going to see if that feels about right. I like that better. Okay, so now that we know we like that, what we've got to do is, and by the way, I'm going to move this key up to the top of the column so it's there from the start and it doesn't go anywhere else. So now what we do is we got column 9 is his ponytail. Column 10 is his buddy. Let me confirm that. Yep. And then column 11, it goes to the other shot. So what we need to do is take columns 9 and 10 and link them to column 8 so that they inherit this little shrink I did. Okay, so I'll show how to do that, and that'll be the end of this somewhat shorter video. The way you do that is you go into the schematic view, switch it to there's the normal schematic, and then there's the effects schematic. So you go here when you want to add effects to levels. This is this view, which I don't know what the proper, I guess they call it the stage schematic, is for the kinds of things I'm about to do. Okay, so we said that what's the master column here? Is column 8. That's the one or no, it isn't. I'm sorry. I don't remember. It was column 11. So let me get that back out of there. Okay. Column 11. Nope, I'm sorry. I'm wrong again. I'm a little confused here. And it's because I've got these windows all overlapping. So let me just go back to here. So it pans up. And then there's our guy. Okay, so now the question becomes, where is our guy? Okay, our guy is column, I was correct the first time, it's column 8. So I'm pulling column 8 out, and I'm going to say that column 9 and column 10 I want to have over here. I'm not sure where column 9 is. It seems to be hiding. Aha! Ponytail. Yep. Seems like my other guy had tassels that were on a separate level as well. Let me double check that real quick. I'm thinking this is correct. So what we want to do is go like that. Okay, so what that did was it took the scaling that I did on column 8, which is the guy climbing the wall, and applied that same scaling to the other columns that run in tandem with it, or other levels, I guess would be the appropriate term. Okay, so here comes our other guy. And okay, yeah, because the tassels I was worried about, that's over here. That's in a different part of the scene. So that means this is done and looks correct. Okay, and just to check it, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this background image and just make the transparency, make it fairly transparent so that I can see better what's going on. Okay, so sleeping. There she is with her foreground and background. Pans up. There's guy number 1, and they're scaled more to an appropriate size. So, okay, so that's it for this video, and I'm sure there will be more later.